Deep inside one of the densest urban centers on Earth, time ripples out at the speed of a drifting wooden boat. This is Lychee Bay. It's a 2,200-year-old pocket of Guangzhou, where locals still gather every afternoon by the water to sing traditional Cantonese opera. But if you stood in this exact spot 30 years ago, a boat wouldn't do you any good. You would have needed a car. In the late 1990s, this entire canal, the stone bridges, and the waterfront did not exist. The area was completely buried under a layer of asphalt, functioning as a concrete city street. Megacities constantly pave over their natural geography to make room for growth. The real question is how a modern metropolis decides to break open its own roads, dig up the earth, and bring a dead river back to life. The water network here naturally fed the region for millennia. Around 206 BC, Han Dynasty officials recognized the fertile soil and began planting massive groves of lychee trees along the banks. By the Ming and Qing dynasties, that agricultural settlement had evolved into a massive, thriving economic hub. The waterways were packed tight with merchant boats, trading goods directly from the water. The wealth generated by this trade funded the construction of the Shiguan mansions. These sprawling, aristocratic homes were built directly on the water's edge, featuring perfectly symmetrical layouts and exquisitely carved wood interiors. The people of Guangzhou built their daily routines entirely around the canals. Wooden boats were moored tightly against the stone banks, serving as both local transport and floating storefronts. The canals supplied the food, carried the commerce, and dictated the architecture. The water was the literal foundation of the city. Then, the mid-20th century arrived, bringing an aggressive wave of industrialization to Guangzhou. Heavy manufacturing plants sprang up along the shores. Within a few decades, industrial runoff and untreated chemical waste choked the delicate canal system, turning the once vital waterways into toxic cesspools. To solve the sanitation crisis and create desperately needed room for urban expansion, city planners in the 1950s made a drastic decision. They began systematically filling the canals with earth. The erasure continued for decades. In 1992, the final 800-meter stretch of the river was packed with dirt and finally paved into a road. Lychee Bay was officially wiped off the map. The concrete held until 2009. Guangzhou was preparing to host the 2010 Asian Games, and the impending international spotlight triggered a massive, radical urban renewal initiative. This graphic shows the physical mechanics of the excavation. Instead of building a park on top of the existing road, engineers peeled back the asphalt and removed thousands of tons of packed dirt to physically unearth the original geometry of the historic riverbed. Once the 800-meter channel was cleared of debris, modern filtration systems were installed, and clean water was pumped back in to fill the empty void. While the riverbed was being restored, construction crews meticulously repaired the surviving Shiguan houses and the historic Liang Ancestral Hall that had spent decades sitting next to a highway. The city executed a massive archaeological excavation on its own modern infrastructure. Today, the river is fully exposed to the sun again. The removal of the concrete triggered an immediate biological and cultural revival. With the water returned, the culture followed. Elderly locals like 75-year-old Miss Guo now perform daily, free Cantonese opera right in front of the newly preserved brick buildings. Wooden boats once again navigate the restored waterway, bringing back the scent of traditional sampan congee cooking on the water. By nightfall, the glow of red lanterns reflects off the dark canal, creating an atmosphere detached from the noise of the surrounding city. It is an ancient water village operating at a walking pace, suspended directly in the middle of a hyper-modern Chinese megacity. Urbanization usually operates in a single direction, constantly pouring new concrete over the past. Lychee Bay proves that sometimes the most progressive thing a city can build is a crack in the pavement, allowing history to flow freely once again.